You know that intense surge of motivation? The one that makes you feel like you can conquer the world? Well, it's chemically designed to be volatile and temporary. It guarantees that your emotional high is going to be followed by a crash. Today, we're going to show you why that feeling of being stuck isn't a personal failure. It's actually a predictable feature of your brain's dopamine system. So think about this. Have you ever absolutely loved doing something, a hobby, a project, maybe even your job, only to feel that passion just fizzle out the moment you started getting paid or rewarded for it? What if the very things we chase to keep us motivated are secretly sabotaging our drive from the inside? We're about to dive deep into a fascinating and dangerous paradox that, believe me, affects every single one of us.
So here's the game plan for today. First, we'll tackle the reward paradox head-on. Then, we're going to look at what's really going on in your brain when you hit burnout. After that, we'll map out the entire motivation loop that kills your drive and figure out why a sense of control is so destructive to passion. And don't worry, we're not just diagnosing the problem, we'll then get into a practical toolkit to protect your drive. And we'll wrap it all up by redefining what it means to have motivation that you truly own.
All right, let's get right into it. The heart of this whole thing is a puzzle, a paradox that sits at the core of our ambition. And it starts with a feeling we all know really, really well.
That feeling of being totally in the zone, completely driven. It's a powerful state, for sure. But here's the thing. Our brains literally designed it to be short-lived. That dopamine rush that fuels our biggest accomplishments, it's inherently unstable. It's like a chemical rocket engine. It gives you a huge boost, but it's guaranteed to run out of fuel. Now, this isn't a flaw in your character. It's just how our brains work. The real trouble starts when we try to cheat the system and keep that high going with outside rewards.
And this brings us to the big, kind of mind-bending question we're exploring today. What if the promotion, the bonus check, the public praise, all the things we're told should motivate us are actually the very things that extinguish our genuine passion? I know, it sounds completely backward, but the science on this is solid. And man, does it explain a lot about modern burnout. So to really understand this, we need to look under the hood. Let's talk about the symptoms and the actual mechanics of what's happening inside your brain when that motivation just up and vanishes. Does any of this hit a little too close to home? That feeling of complete burnout. The productivity roller coaster, where one day you're on fire and the next you can't even start. Or maybe that awful moment you realize that a hobby you once poured your heart into now just feels like a chore. Listen, these aren't just random bad feelings. They're all symptoms of a very specific conflict happening inside your head, a miswiring of your entire reward system.
And that conflict really boils down to these two different flavors of motivation. On one hand, you have intrinsic motivation. This is the stuff that comes from within. You do it because it's fun, because you're curious, because it just feels good. It feels like freedom, like you're in charge. On the other hand, you have extrinsic motivation. This comes from the outside world. It's the carrot, like money or praise, or it's the stick, the fear of getting in trouble. It feels like an obligation, like pressure. Now, both can make you do stuff, but they're absolutely not the same. One is sustainable, clean-burning fuel. The other is like pouring gasoline on a fire. You get a big flame, followed by a whole lot of nothing.
And this whole phenomenon, this weird psychological trap, actually has a name. It's called the Overjustification Effect. And it's one of the most consistent findings in psychology. The idea is shockingly simple. As soon as you start paying someone for something they already enjoy doing, they start to enjoy it less. The reward literally overwrites the passion.
So how in the world does this happen? Well, it's a process called cognitive re-categorization. Your brain is basically a storyteller. It constantly needs to make sense of why you're doing what you're doing. And when a big, shiny external reward shows up, your brain, the logical part of it, just rewrites the story. The reason you're doing the activity is no longer, I do this because it's fun. The new story is much simpler. I do this because I get a reward. The reward hijacks the entire narrative of why you're putting in the effort.
And this isn't some random thing that happens. No, it's a predictable four-step cycle that reliably takes you from pure passion all the way to total apathy.
Let's walk through the loop. Stage 1. You start with pure intrinsic drive. You're doing it for the love of the game. Stage 2. An extrinsic intervention happens. A paycheck, a prize, a big bonus. Stage 3. Overjustification kicks in. Your brain does that story swap we just talked about. The why is now the reward. And then comes stage 4, the real kicker, amotivation. If that reward is ever taken away, or even just made smaller, the entire reason for doing the activity just evaporates. And because your original internal drive has been pushed aside, you're left with nothing, no reward and no passion.
The fallout in your brain is, well, it's brutal. That dopamine hit you get from a big reward is powerful, but it's fleeting. Your brain gets used to that easy spike. So when the reward is gone, that subtle, steady trickle of dopamine you got from just enjoying the process, it's not enough anymore. Your motivation doesn't just go back to normal, it crashes way, way below where you started, leaving you feeling totally empty.
Okay, so we've seen what happens. But the deeper question is why? Why does our brain fall for this trap so easily? The answer actually lies in some of our most fundamental human needs.
The key idea here is something called self-determination theory, or SDT for short. And it's pretty simple, really. It says that for us humans to feel genuinely motivated and happy, we have these basic psychological needs. And two of the biggest ones are autonomy, the feeling that we're in the driver's seat of our own lives, and competence, that feeling that we're actually good at what we do. True intrinsic motivation is what happens when these needs are being met.
And right here is where the problem starts. When somebody offers you a reward to do something, your brain sees more than just a prize. It sees a form of control. An external reward is basically saying, if you do this, then you'll get that. It shifts the center of control from inside you to outside of you. And that is a direct attack on your sense of autonomy. The activity is no longer something you choose to do, it's something you have to do to get the reward.
You can also think about it as a battle of signals in your brain. Your internal drive, that's a quiet signal. It's subtle, it's complex, it's like a whisper. But an external reward, that's a loud, simple, blaring signal. It's a foghorn. And when your brain is hearing both at the same time, it's always going to pay attention to the loudest, most obvious one. It tunes out that quiet hum of internal satisfaction for the screaming siren of the external prize.
Okay, I know. This all might sound a little bit bleak, but here's the really good news. Once you understand the system, once you can see the trap, you can start building strategies to protect that precious internal fire. So let's get practical. Let's talk about the toolkit.
We've got 3 powerful, actionable strategies you can use. First, we're going to learn how to reframe what rewards actually mean. Second, we'll build a bridge between those boring tasks we all have to do and our deeper core values. And third, we're going to change the game we're playing to focus on the right kind of information. Let's break each one down.
The first tool is all about a mental shift. It's about the story you tell yourself. The next time you get a bonus or some kind of reward, you have to consciously stop your brain from defaulting to, I did the work for the money. Instead, you actively tell yourself a new story. You reframe the reward not as the reason you did the work, but as a signal that you did the work well. It's not payment, it's recognition. It's information that tells you you're competent. This simple little mind trick is huge for protecting your sense of autonomy.
Okay, but what about the stuff that has zero intrinsic motivation to begin with? You know, like filling out expense reports. This is where you use a thought-action link. You find a way to connect that tedious, boring task to one of your deeply held values. You're not just doing paperwork, you are embodying your value of being a responsible, detail-oriented professional. You're not just taking out the trash, you're contributing to a clean and peaceful home for your family. See how that works? You turn an external demand into an internal choice. You take back control.
And finally, you can make changes to your environment. Instead of setting up these if-then rewards, like if I finish this, I get to watch TV, you shift your focus to gathering feedback. That means tracking your progress, celebrating a streak of good habits, or just taking a moment to notice how much you've improved a skill. All of these things feed your sense of competence. You're rewarding the process of getting better, not just the finished product. And that reinforces that quiet, powerful signal of your own internal drive.
So, when you put all of this together, what have we learned? By understanding this crazy loop, we can finally stop fighting against our own biology and start working with it. We can actually design a motivational life that feels authentic, sustainable, and is truly our own.
And this, right here, is the biggest takeaway. Real motivation is not a transaction. It's not about what you get for what you do. True, lasting, unshakable drive is about what the work allows you to become. It's about that feeling of autonomy, that quiet pride in getting better at something, and that deep sense of purpose that only comes when your actions line up with who you want to be. It's about what the work makes you feel about yourself.
Because think about it, the second you have to bribe yourself or be bribed to do something, you've already lost the most powerful and valuable engine you have, your own genuine desire. The best motivation in the world is, and always will be, the kind that comes for free.